Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Coach Talk, an extension to my amazing Positive Talk series that I've been doing here on Instagram. But this one's all about bringing coaches together and having conversations about what we do as coaches and where our journeys brought us, as well as the type of work that we want to be doing here in the near future. I developed a community for coaches, and this is kind of an extension where I pull people from the community of people that I know to bring them to you so that you get to meet these amazing people as well. I love sharing friends with everyone, so coaches that come on because they're all growing their coaching businesses as well, and maybe they'll connect with you. So we will go ahead. Hello, hello.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. For some reason, I couldn't see you earlier.
Yeah, I was waiting for the go, and then I was like, okay, she's ready. Let's go.
And I was here waiting. I was like, okay, so I'll see it pop up soon. So tells you how much I know
Um,
about technology and social media.
how has your day been so far?
It's been good. I woke up late this morning, so I got some sleep in. And then I had a session with my coach a little before I came on with you. So
Awesome.
it's been good.
Awesome. Well, I will let you introduce yourself so people know who you are, and then we can jump into a conversation.
Okay. So my name is Kanisha Lawrence. I go by Kenny. Prefer that. So I started on this journey, I would say probably about 2 years ago, but I didn't make the full step forward because quite frankly, I wasn't ready. But in August of last year, I took the step to like, I was at a place where I was just feeling pressured, overwhelmed, and I knew I was searching for something, wasn't sure what it was. So I found the Jay Shetty School. And when I got there, I went there searching for um, an opportunity or just to express myself in the way that I think is comes natural to me to help people and all of that. But what I found there was a community of people that just love you, take care of you, and I found myself. I found my purpose as in not just what I want to do for people, but as in what I want to do for myself and who I want to be, and just understanding all the things that I've been struggling with for life, where they came from, and how I should handle them. So I am like very grateful to Jay Shetty School and all the opportunities that I was able to get to where I'm at right now. Still work in progress, but um,
Yeah,
it's pretty good where I'm at right now.
yeah. I've been doing the coaching thing for about 6 years now, and I will say the journey up until the Jay Shetty school, like I ran into a couple coaches, like I've met them across platforms, but being able to be in a community like the Jay Shetty School was nice because I was finally in a space where everyone understood the struggles that I was going through of like building confidence as a coach and becoming an entrepreneur and learning how to do all of that because it's not just about being a coach, it's also knowing how to run a coaching business to pull in
Yeah,
clients. And I was also like all over the place. Like a lot of the stuff that he taught in that school kind of put order to everything I was learning
some
on my journey. Like I would
structure.
learn like module 3 back in 2016. I learned module 12 back in last year. But like it was nice that he created this like flow that just kind of pulled everything together and then
Together.
gave me the ability to connect with fellow coaches because I think that that's the biggest takeaway that I got.
Absolutely. So I have loved it. I did not see myself going. I'm not really the person that like actually grabs on to getting into community. I still struggle with that, where I push forward to share and be a part of. So every time I do that, it's me coming out of my comfort zone. I'm personable. Like people will talk to me, I'll talk to them, but I don't necessarily take them with me and like continue on like a long lasting relationship. if that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of us, when it came to like community in school, like when we were in high school, if people went to college, like there's a community within those spaces just because it's like a forced community. We all go to
You
school, we all
you
go to
have no
there.
choice.
But then it's like in your day-to-day life when you become an adult, like that type of connection is harder and harder to find in the world. Like you can connect through like religious establishments, you can connect through different organizations, but
Yeah,
that requires a lot of a commitment. And sometimes life as an adult gets really busy and it's really
yeah,
hard to maintain something for yourself in that way. That's not like a requirement because school we were
yeah,
required to go to. Like
yeah,
anything in our adult life that is like feeding to us like our soul, sometimes we put that on the back burner for things that we feel like we have to do, and that can be rough sometimes.
absolutely.
So when it comes to like your journey and like what area that you kind of have a passion for coaching in, tell us a little bit more about that because I'd love to hear like what got you to this point of wanting to coach and like what area people could like come to you for.
Okay. All right, so the struggle for that was very real because I struggled with like narrowing down to a niche because I was feeling like, oh, I'm broad spectrum. I can help anyone that comes my way. Because I started out so when I started working for hospitality, I've been in for I'm going to age myself right now. For about 20 years, I think just about 20 years, I've been in hospitality industry. And I have worked pretty much almost, other than food and beverage, basically, I've worked in most of the areas in hospitality. And let me take that back. At one point, I was a little bit in beverage, but for me, I have always been like the person that somebody will come to mentor them because I can't see somebody going down a certain line or a certain area or doing something, and I don't feel like, if I care about them, not to say something, not to give them an idea, like, you know what, you're thinking this way, but if you try this way, it might be a little better. Very unsolicited, but it I find people came to me a lot for advice. I was really great at giving advice, not good at following them, but great at giving them. But but I found that that was my thing. And when we came to the school and then we got to the point where we had to narrow down, I was like, oh, I'm a mindset coach because this is basically what coaching is. We approach the mindset, and that's what we try to change. And I kind of did, I think there was an activity that we were supposed to do that kind of brings down to narrow down to the areas that you are actually, more attuned to. And then they said, okay, you need to probably narrow down to a demographic. And, I decided to do women empowerment. And when I did that, women empowerment, mindset transformational coach, I did it, but I didn't buy into it. I didn't really believe in it. But then over a course of period, and I realized absolutely, I gravitate towards women and the struggles because I know that. I know I've experienced it, I've seen it. And if I'm going to be like narrowing my niche, absolutely. I want to do to see women gain their power because a lot of us live in life continuously feeling like things are happening to us and we have no control over it, and life is just we're just floating and we don't understand how much of a choice we have in pretty much everything that happens in life. So if I can help one two women in life that understands, like, you are not a victim of life. You are a creator of the life that you have and what you want. And that's my area. That's how I got to where I am right now, like women empowerment.
I absolutely love that. And I definitely think when it comes to like going through a program that tries to like niche you down and gets you to figure out what something very specific, it can be a really difficult journey. I think the biggest thing I always take away from it is when you niche down like that, it's just for marketing purposes. It's just to help
Yeah.
you craft a message that someone can connect to and say, that's me. Because I think when you have like that broad, because I started off as self-empowerment coach and I was like, I can help everybody.
Anybody.
And the problem with that is like my message, like people are like, oh yeah, great message, but no one felt like, wow, you really connected with me. And
Yeah.
I think narrowing it down to like empowering women and knowing that your journey walked you down specific paths in that realm as well will help you kind of tell the story that people can connect with really powerfully.
Yeah.
Because yeah, this is like culture and society and politics and religion, all of those things create a mindset for people in their life of the role that they need to play. And no matter where you sit on the map, those things are taught to you differently. So helping
Yeah.
people realize that maybe what they were taught uh, is just a construct that they're sitting in now, but you have the ability to create a new one. And working with coaches, like that's the beautiful thing about coaches is we can help you create a new reality in your mind to realize that the traps you're stuck in are usually ones that your mind has got you there, because we see other people around us not sitting in the same traps and we're like, how did you escape,
Yeah.
how did you get out? And they're like, it wasn't a trap for me.
Yeah, I didn't stay there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when it comes to like your journey, like is there any part of it that really like resonates with you and like connects with your journey that kind of brings you to this area where you're like this, these are the people I want to serve for sure.
Okay. Um, all right. So for me, I grew up in a household of women. So I grew up with my grandmother in Jamaica. Because my mom had to leave us like probably about 2 hours away and go work, so she could support us. And it was like five girls and my grandmother. And when she didn't have a husband, there was just no men. Like my uncles would visit, but they were older, so they would just visit, and it was just all women. And growing up with that, you cannot escape feeling and like having the foundation of thinking on the lines of a feminist, because and then it makes you feel like, oh, you have to depend on you, like you have to depend on your strength as a woman, like you have to just do it. Then we pretty much all got into a relationship where at some point in time, like I think that's kind of what we attract, like men that felt like, oh, they're strong, they can do it, so I have to do much. Like, so I don't know if we emasculate them in that sense, or it was just because we attract that because we felt like, oh, we're so strong. Right now, I have a thing about like, I don't want anybody to use that adjective to describe me. I don't want to be strong. Like, don't use it. I don't want to hear it. But like, so watching us like doing that, and then at some point we're all sometimes in relationship, being married, and still like single moms, like having your children and then doing everything like super. And then you do nothing for yourself, and you basically start feeling like, oh my God, like why do I, why do these people feel like, and why don't somebody do this, and why don't he just do this, and why don't I get the support here? And now, now that I've lived it, and now that I've got to a certain point in my life right now, I realize how much of that I kind of created because of the mindset that I grew up with. And not that I don't live with regrets. So it's not that I'm saying I regret it, but it's like I realize how much of my misery and the stress and all of that that I did create by the decisions that I make, the steps that I make, and just allow it, just being the peacemaker, and just don't want to rock the boat and don't want to cause any trouble or whatever. And you create that life for yourself. And it becomes so pressuring because it's like your core knows this is not the way it's supposed to be. So you're constantly at fight and you're constantly just feeling like you're just in misery and you want it to look a certain way. And then somewhere along the line, you feel like you can change people, you can conform them, you can get them to be the way and do the things that you want them to do. And I guess because I couldn't fix all of that, I kind of put everything outside where every time I see somebody and that's willing to take the advice or whatever, I just like, I'm seeing this path you're going down. Like, you probably want to do this or you probably should try doing that. But I never did it
Yeah.
until pretty much kind of now.
Yeah. I think that that's a journey a lot of people can connect with because
Yeah.
it's almost like we're never taught to create healthy boundaries for ourselves. Like
Nope.
we are taught that we are supposed to serve others, give willingly. And a lot of times we have that mindset of giving to others, assuming that they would give back to us.
Yeah.
And we create these like people who just want to give and give and give because that's what we're trained to do, and we're told that when we give, the world will give back. But I think if we don't set healthy boundaries for ourselves, we're teaching people how to mistreat
Yeah.
us instead of teaching people how to respect us and help us. And I think being a people pleaser myself, the biggest breakthrough I had was learning how to ask for help and not feeling like I'm a horrible person for asking,
Yeah.
because throughout my
And
life,
then,
I've given so much. I have the right to say, hey, I need a little help now, and
yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's pretty much kind of the narrative my whole life. And it manifests in different ways. And if it was just like, it's staying in the little box over here and it's only associated with this thing, but then it just spreads out. Like it grows a whole life. So you go into the workplace and you do it. You go anywhere, like you're in the community, everywhere you do it. Like you're just shrinking yourself until you don't even know who you are, who the core, and what you actually want. Because a lot of what you've been doing is like, oh, somebody asked you, be like, oh, what would make you happy? You're like, oh, I just want to make sure my family's okay, and I just want to make sure. And there is no thought, like, yeah, like after you made everybody happy over there, like, yeah, are you still like, does that, did you just sit there and be like, oh, yeah, I'm happy, I'm good? And you don't think about self at all in everything that you do. You just don't want to cause any problem. You don't want to say, oh, I don't really like this because it's going to start something. And somebody else might be like, this person is, even with my sisters, it was three girls my mom had. And a lot of times, like if my mom has, because we love to take her clothes and her shoes and her bags and stuff like that. And if she has something and she wants to give it away, it's usually between my older sister and my younger sister because I'm like, okay, it matters to them. So I won't even get in there. Like I don't even like even ask about it. It's like um one is like, you know what, I deserve it. Like I should get it. Like and then the other one is like, listen, I just want it. And it really doesn't matter like who won it. And I'm like, okay, I just don't need to get into that. Like, and I pull away and I did not take as much as I needed. And I did not ask for what I needed because I felt like, okay, I don't want to start anything and I just want the peace to be there and you just want everybody to be happy. And once everybody's happy, then they won't like, you'll be okay. And if you are the one creating that, ooh, even better. Like, oh, Kenny is like she does not cause any problems. Oh, she's like my perfect daughter. Like, and it wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't.
that that's where I think like midlife crises come in, because like we, through life, to please others, we slowly shrink the space for ourselves to the point where I feel like the midlife crises happens because we've shrunk our life and our existence so small that we're just like we can't live there anymore, so we like explode and we're like we want it all, we want everything that everyone else has. And it's funny because you were talking about like being rewarded for being the way that you were. It was
Yeah.
like positive reinforcement of you doing something that served everyone else's
Yes.
peace of mind, but deflated you as a person on your journey to the point where it's just like you're being rewarded for being that way, and you're avoiding conflict and uncomfortableness by being that way. It's like so many different things keeping you in this small little
Live the
space,
boss. Yeah. Yep.
and it's a dangerous place, but it feels good most of the time until that space starts getting so small that it's just impossible to exist there, and then it's just like, I'm done, I can't do this, and then it's like, F you, F you, F you, I'm done with you. It's like everyone gets the full force of it, but it's like, I'm sorry,
Like,
but you
yep.
benefited all these years from me being this way. I'm
Yeah.
done doing
Yeah.
that.
Done, like, I'm so sorry. And because it's so sudden, because you have to come, like, you have shrunk to like 10% of yourself, and you're fighting now to gain that whole 90. So that 90 just looks like a lot, and they get it in their face because you're like, you know what, full turnaround, I'm not doing this. And it's just a shock to everybody, and they're like, oh, you're just so selfish, oh, you're so awful.
Yeah.
And they don't understand it's not about being selfish or being awful. It's just about just putting up some boundaries so I can, like, actually see myself, do things for myself. So when I am able to do anything for you, it's not coming from a place of I feel like I am burdened to do it, or obligated. It's like, oh, I can do this, and I won't feel anything like after, be like, oh, I just gave away my $10, and now I have to pay my bill, and I already, gave somebody, and be like, oh, I wish. And then when you start calling me now, I don't want you calling me, because the moment you start, my phone start ringing, I'll be like, oh, what are you going to ask me for? And I can't say no. So I don't even want to answer the phone. Now I answer my phone, because if I'm not going to do it, it's just I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. And it's
So the
funny
freedom,
because
yeah,
as kids, we would see people doing exactly what we're learning to do, and we would even put labels on them like, wow, they're so selfish for saying
yeah,
no, that they didn't want to work this weekend.
yeah,
But it's like they covered the grounds of like, this is my boundary, this is my area of respect, my days
yeah,
off or my days off. I do not pick up my phone from this time. And in our heads, we were so trained to be a people pleaser that it
yeah.
did seem like these people were rude. And we're like, how are they
That's
getting
not
further in
nice.
life than us when they're being rude and treating people like crap? Because that's how we're trained to
Yeah,
think they're doing it.
yep.
But when you step out of it and realize that they were setting healthy boundaries for themselves, they were
Mhm.
setting like stones up for themselves to take leaps to in their future. And it's like, oh, so they were more on the right track than I
Correct.
was.
That I
Not saying that
was.
they're
Yeah,
mean people are better,
yeah.
because I'm just saying that sometimes what we label as
Mhm.
rude or
Not
self-centered or
necessarily correct.
selfish, we we don't realize that those might be just healthy boundaries that we're not comfortable with because we don't have those yet.
We don't grow up with that, so we don't know. And when you were talking just now, what kind of came up to me was, how somebody would say the saying, oh, only evil people or only bad people actually, if you want to get ahead in this world, you have to be a this and you have to be a that. And when you said that, it just made me realize that that's how we grew up thinking. Like, that's the thing that we tell ourselves is like, listen, as much as that's how you can get ahead, if I have to do that, I don't want to get ahead, because it's labeled as just somebody being mean and evil and horrible person. And now that you are looking at the world through a different looking glass, you see that, like, not that there aren't people that are just like stomping over people getting where they want to go, but
Yeah.
you are seeing that there's a lot of them in there that is just people saying, oh, yeah, I'm sorry. If I'm going to sacrifice me to suit you, I'm going to choose me,
Yeah.
because I'm a value. So I absolutely see, like, that's how what we told ourselves for a long time.
Yeah. And it's funny because the more I've coached people, the harder it is for people to like identify themselves, like what they want, because through life we pick up so many boundaries and things of other people
Yeah.
and put them as our boundaries because it's like, okay, we can't cross there. Kind of like what you were talking about with your mother's things, where it's just like, well, I don't really need those things. So you
Hmm.
can develop a mindset of like, I don't really need that much to be happy.
Yeah.
And you put yourself in this box of like, okay, I'm not that. I'm a good person here. And we set up these boundaries where we don't even know what would make us happy because we
Exactly.
were trained to believe that just allowing everyone else to tell us where we can stop, where we can go,
Mhm.
what the roof is for us.
Is-
But once you live in that space, because as a coach, I don't care what everyone else thinks. I'm here for the person I'm working with,
yeah.
and it's so interesting helping people break down those walls because that's a journey all on its own because we create such a small space for us to exist in. And when someone's like, I want you to take up all this space, it's like, I don't know how to do that.
Yep, I cannot. I don't know how to, I don't know, I don't even know what space I'm actually supposed to be in. Like, I just know that, like, if I make myself small enough, like, I won't be a bother to even, I travel for work, so I'm in employee housing. And the way I have lived like for years, I would just make myself so small. I'd be like, oh, they're like, how do you guys work out this hard? I'm like, oh, I don't really care. So like if my roommate wants to do this or my housemate want to do that, they can do that because I don't care. Like I just put myself in a little box. No, I won't say that I am obnoxious or just what, but it's like whatever space I need. Like I just use what I need. And if it's not going to be, if you feel like I am pushing a little bit over into your boundary, just say it because I just let it be known. Like, okay, so if you need whatever, just let me know. But I'm just going to be doing me. Just going to be relaxed. I'm going to be here for quite a few time and quite a long time. And I want to be happy and I want to be relaxed too. And not just be constantly tiptoeing around people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And when it comes to taking up more space, like I think the world naturally says certain people are meant to be quiet, certain people are meant to take up less space. And when you're on that journey of realizing that that was just there to keep everyone small, like you have to get over it's going to make people uncomfortable
Yeah.
because unfortunately their comfort has existed for so long. It's like, I'm sorry, but it's either I get to take up an equal amount of space as you in this space, or you can leave if it makes you uncomfortable. I'm not shrinking to make
To
your
fit you.
space comfortable for you.
Mhm. Absolutely. Loving it. And it's freeing. Like, honestly, when you stop worrying too much about the next person and how they feel, of course, you need to be good human beings and you need to be very mindful of people's feelings. But at the same time, at what cost will you shrink yourself? What cost will you not say to the person, listen, you just said something or you just did something that kind of make me feel some sort of way. And if it's something like the point that you didn't mean to, I would love for like, say something, discuss it, and then I can say, oh, I can see that. But I'm not gonna just be like, I don't want to rock the boat, I don't want to start anything. So I'm just here and just having that in my head and create my own misery and just walking around and making sure you're not triggered or you don't have issues or not in your space and coming over into no, I'm going to be living because I have a right to be here just like everybody else. I have a right to everywhere that I go. Like we are all should be have our equal space. And if I need to come in your space a little bit, like yeah, ask me permission. Don't just feel like you just roll over me because Kenny don't need that. Like, just let me just take up like 90% of the space. She'll be fine in 10.
Yeah.
So that's the narrative that we live with as people pleasers. Well,
Yeah. And it's,
reformed
yeah,
people please.
when you, it's interesting because you kind of talked about it, how it like trickles into every part of your life.
Aspect.
Because there are certain times where we feel like, oh, it's only in this specific area that it's impacting me. And it's like, no, if you are a people pleaser, like you've probably shrank yourself in most spaces in your life.
Everything.
And when you start to realize like I don't want to be this way, it's not big enough for me here. I am taking on a lot of suffering when everyone else around me gets to experience the comfort
Mhm.
because I suffer. When you start to kind of expand yourself and people have that pushback, we don't realize how it impacts
Trickle.
everything around us. And unfortunately, on that journey, sometimes people are going to be uncomfortable and may need to be removed temporarily, or they will come back
Step
later
away
down in life
themselves.
where
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I've learned that when I started putting up boundaries, people started labeling me with things that were more negative because I was no longer just that easy going, step all
Yeah.
over me type
Like,
of
yeah.
person, help you to your next step while I sit here still working on
Working. Yeah.
broken pieces.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important for people to realize that when you start doing this work, especially if you've never done it before or
Yeah.
you don't have a super supportive group of people around you, which I think the coaches are there for each other for sure.
Yeah. Now.
But
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people could really utilize a coach for is we keep holding that space for you. We will keep holding that door open for you and let you know that the space
Mhm.
that you're asking for, you deserve. You're there.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have it. Take it. Whereas it's really hard when you start making those steps at first without that support system
Yeah.
because our mind loves comfort and we would much rather go into that small people pleasing mode again
Those
than
two. Because it's
continue to
easy.
take up that space.
It's easy. It's just the repercussions of it is hard, but it's easy to just like be like, you know what, just to make the peace. It becomes harder um the more confident you are in what you need and what you want, and when you assert and to assert yourself. But like if you haven't gotten to that stage, it's easy to just be like, you know what, it's just going to make everything more relaxed and it's fine. Like I've been doing this, I was okay, and I had this person in my life, I had people over here, and for me to keep all of that, and for even a job, like it's like, okay, for me to keep this job, I have to be this, call me anytime, put me on this shift, do that, do whatever. And it creates that like just easy to fall back into. So it's, if you don't have support system, absolutely, it's pretty hard for you to get out of that type of cycle. Well, I call it the hamster wheel. Get out of the cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've worked with people who, when it comes to their time, they don't realize how valuable time is and what we're willing to give to people for free.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of times we will give ourselves at no cost, or we will give ourselves to the point where we're sacrificing our own personal growth or space that we need because we're like, well, this makes us a good person.
Yeah.
this this makes us a person that the world sees as good because
Yeah.
I'm doing all of this for this organization for free. I'm doing all of this for my friend for
Yeah.
free. And there are moments in time where dedicating some free
It's
time to people, that
good,
is
but
great.
yeah.
But if you believe that your identity of being a good person exists only because you give everything you have to the world instead of holding on to some for you,
That's the
that's
problem.
where it starts to get really dangerous because
Yeah.
now you're shrinking your space and eventually you will come to a place where you don't have anything to give,
Mhm.
but you've surrounded yourself with people who only know how to take.
Yeah.
And I've been there, and that's not a fun place to be.
It's not. And I guess that's why us as coach, because the whole like the whole inner empathy and all of the inner force that drives us to be coaches, it is like on the opposite spectrum of being a business person. And that's why we struggle to actually like, because that's the struggle that I'm at right now. And I am breaking it apart and taking it like one step at a time. I'm working on the perfectionism right now first, and then take a little step, or because if I take on all of it, I would just go crazy. But as coaches, it's hard for us to just shift from being like, this is what I want to help people. I'm seeing that you have the need. You want to be better. You want to, and I'm like, because you don't have the financial part of it, I'm not able to, because I have my life that I need to, like, I have my bills to pay. I have, car payments. I have to eat food. I have kids I need to take care of, or whatever, is your responsibility. It's like you're just there fighting with the two different sides of it. So it's kind of hard for us to actually transition into business people as coaches. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's where it comes from.
It's interesting too because I've lived in a position where I've helped a lot of people for free. And I realized that when I stepped out of that position, I wasn't actually helping them. I was very much a crutch. So I was
Yeah.
doing all the things that, had they learned to do it on their own, that would have been a skill that then carried over into all parts of their life. And it was interesting because I got to the point where, like I said, I had nothing left to give. I had to pull out because I had to give back to myself because I finally got to that point. And what I realized was a lot of the people that were just like vacuums, just sucking out my resources and my energy and time,
It's
when
miracle.
I had nothing left to give, some people went and found the next person to start draining,
Yeah.
while others realized that this was something that they're going to have to learn how to get through. And I think one of the steps as people work with coaches is we are a resource worth paying for.
Yep.
And maybe the first lesson that someone has to take is, what can I do to afford a coach to help me get to the next level? Because it's all about learning. And I've watched people who were in the very same footsteps as I was in, but maybe had a resource that I didn't. I
Yep.
strengthened myself, gained these resources and knowledge, and stepped forward.
Forward.
Whereas these
Mhm.
other people continued to be stuck here because that resource was connected to someone who was going this way instead of the
Yeah.
direction that they needed to go. And so I think it's really important for coaches to know that the value you bring is also teaching people you you're relying on yourself. We're teaching you
Yeah.
how to realize that life doesn't have any guarantees. There are so many people who are so dependent on family
Yep.
members, like parents, their whole life, that when their parents pass away later on in
It's
life,
from
you've got adults that almost revert back to being
Yep.
children because they're having to learn everything
Didn't grow up.
because they didn't do that. Their parents
Yeah.
did this for them. And that's a really dangerous space to be in. I
Crutch.
learned a lot of different areas where I had crutches, and I was like, how can I gain this resource so that I don't have to use this as a crutch? Because I had a really successful coaching business, but I had a crutch under me. And then
Yeah.
that crutch got pulled out, and my coaching business was just like, because I
Because
didn't
there was
learn.
no foundation. Yeah.
So it was
You
like,
didn't own the foundation. Yep.
yeah. So I was like, okay, starting over, I'm building a foundation that relies on me. And I'm not
Yep.
saying I won't take other people's help, but I'm not going to put them as a foundation piece
Nope.
that holds it up, because moving forward, if that's what's holding me up and they decide they want to go this way, I don't want to fall again. I'm not crumbling this time.
Yeah, you cannot control people. People will do what they want to do, go where they want to go, and it's kind of unfair to be expecting that because you need them for whatever, they can't get to do what they want to do and move where they want to go, and it's a burden in a sense. And so I absolutely get it. So for me, when you were just talking, what all I can think about is like, when we and like in school they were like, oh, you empty your cup, and you don't realize, like, in emptying your cup there won't be anything there, neither for you or anybody else. So there won't be any substance left in you, and somebody's just going to move on because they need to drink, and there's nothing, that you have nothing left because you just empty everything out. And the value I found in coaching is worth every penny I paid for school. So even if later, not, let me not even say it and put it out there, but without the business that I am gonna, like, expand from what I've learned in school, the value of coaching is invaluable. Because what I have found, I use the word loosely, like happiness and happy and all of that. I probably won't, because I think happiness is kind of situational. So what I found is joy in who I am. Like I can have a bad day, can have 2 bad days, but by the core, like if somebody asks me, like, "Oh, are you happy?" I'll be like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm good. Like, I have this foundation that is resilient to almost anything. So, how I kind of look at like coaching is, you teach somebody how to fish, you turn them into fishermen instead of they come to you and you'll be like, here, have a fish. Have 2 fish, have 3 fish. It's just like teaching them to be fishermen so they can sustain themselves, they can survive without you being there. So that's
Yeah.
the crutch. Like I don't want to be the fisherman for people. It's like if you come, I need to teach you how to do this so that you can actually later on like look at yourself and any situation you can put it on look at it at that spectrum or whatever tools you learn. That's something that you can use going forward in life. But it's very valuable and for me, I'm not like the greatest salesperson, but I feel like if I believe in it and if I buy into it, I can sell it.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I think something that's really beautiful that I started doing was there are a lot of people who need that one-on-one time, but there's also a lot of things that I can do and create that can be used for a lot of people. I found that switching to YouTube or switching to doing something on Instagram where it's like, this person just asked me for this help as a coach. They can't afford to work with me as a coach, but I can create a resource for them that then I can share on my page that will help hundreds of people who see it.
People.
And then it's like, okay, that was worth it because it became a resource that I can share with a lot of people. I feel like a lot of coaches I've worked with are scared to create something too big for free where it's
Yeah.
like no, like if you create and give to the world things, because creating a document and giving it to one person and it's only used for them, that's a lot of time out of me to help one
Person.
person. Whereas if I can create something that can help a large group of people, like create a seminar that can house lots of people for $5. Most people can afford
Afford that.
$5, and if you've got 100 people in there paying you $5 for the wisdom that you're giving them to help boost their life towards their goals, you're getting paid $500 for it because
Mhm.
you know that it's got a value to it.
Yeah.
I think so many times when coaches are starting to connect with people, because we do genuinely want to help people who need
Yep.
help, and a lot of times they need help in the financial area and
Yeah.
we feel like, oh gosh, we
Feel
we
bad to be taking. Yeah.
so it's like find something that you can really give. And then the funny thing is, even at $5, some people won't want to show up for that because they're not ready to start that journey for themselves, but you are giving them a resource and an opportunity. Because I found community things, people will say some things that I would have never said myself that helped so many more
Yeah.
people grow in that space. And it's like all I had to do was orchestrate to get people to come to one space and
Yeah.
hold that conversation on that topic. And I created something that was like immeasurable for the people that attended. And I
Yeah.
think that it's important for coaches to remember that because that journey is really hard to overcome if you have a relationship with money that's not healthy
Yeah.
for you.
Healthy. Yeah. Because even this project, this is a beautiful project that is so beneficial to me as a coach coming on here, get stepping out of my comfort zone and actually learning from you. It's also for other coaches that might be watching and realizing like, we all struggle. We have some of the same struggles. And for somebody watching on the outside that has nothing to do with coaching, first they're hearing about it, but they can take some nuggets, something they can take from it. So this is beautiful, Ben. Like this is an awesome project. Like I love it. And thank
Well,
you.
thank you. And I absolutely love doing this because sometimes I think as coaches we get so in our head but a platform like this, and when you can hold space just to have a conversation, I love watching you all shine because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so nervous. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if I've got what it takes. And honestly, this
Yep.
conversation, I'm sitting here like nodding my head. And I'm like, you go, you've got this. Oh my God, yeah, let's go. Because I think we just need space to have these conversations because the information you've shared is priceless. Like
Yeah.
people, you can't put a dollar amount on that. And your empathy and heart that you're already, that was already you before you ever went through any
Got into
certification
school.
program.
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes we just get too in our head and forget all of those beautiful parts of ourselves
Mhm.
because that's what you can share with the world. And I love having this space for people to come on because even when it was just positive talks and not coach talks, every single conversation out of the 300 and some episodes I've done now, I'm like, each one of these are super special.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing. And I mean, even the small amount of time we've gotten to interact with each other through Launchpad and through the Jay Shetty courses, I was like, yep, she's got it. There's definitely people where it's like you can see it and you know that the Launchpad has like confused them a little bit to where it's like, uh-oh, she's losing sight of it. Let's get her back. And
Listen,
I'm glad we could use this space because you definitely the light is shining bright today for sure.
I absolutely got stuck at 9. And it's the perfectionism that pretty much kind of got me stuck there because it was we were working on our logo and our names, I think, at that point, and I just felt like, oh, I wanted to come from here and I wasn't there yet. Like I wasn't sure where, and if for me it's like, oh, if I don't get this the way I want it first, it makes no sense moving on and doing all the other stuff because I have to put those things on there. And I kind of just like, you know what? I pulled away. And now, in retrospect, I'm looking at it. It wasn't like it was the worst decision that I made. It was a decision that I needed to make at the time. And now I'm looking back at it and I realize, yeah, I need to address this perfectionist because I could have just done the whole thing. Like, I don't have to keep, like, remember, I don't have to keep this. Like, I can do this, but I don't have to keep it. Like, just do the activity and do what you need to do and then just move on with it. And the part that I'm a little bit more proud of myself during that point is the old me would never accept me not finishing that or me not doing what I was like, what? And I gave myself some grace and be like, you know what? I'm doing it the step and the pace I can do it. And I'm doing what I need to do. And I had to remember this is a reference. It's not I'm in school and I have to get an A or I have to get a A plus. It's a reference. So it's okay to say, okay, yeah, I'll take this into consideration. Thank you. And I like if I need to use this later, I'll use it. I'll download all these things and I'll keep them. But and not feel that pressure of like, oh my God, like I did not turn in my homework to my teacher and my teacher is going to be so mad at me because I'm like the worst student or whatever the case may be. And that was a feeling and it brought me back into school and like a child. And then I remember I'm an adult. Like I can choose.
Yes.
I can choose to. Like, listen, I decide, okay, I want my logo to be this way. And when I get it, and I want my business name to be this, I don't want to generate something and say, okay, this is what I'm going to use. And somebody be like, oh, so what is this icon for over here? And I'd be like, I don't know. It came up. Like, I
AI
went
made
into a,
it.
yeah, I went into a generator and it says, look. So I'm doing that. No, I want it to be like coming from me. And when somebody asks me, I can say it resonates with me. It comes from here, and it's a part of my brand. And I don't want to be flip flopping and wishy washy with what I choose. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing, and then 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh crap, this is not what I wanted to say. This is what I'm going to say, and then I have to go in and redo everything. So I got to the point. I was like, oh yeah, thank you so much for all these reference. This is nice. I'm gonna like when I get to the point where I need to move on from this, I'm gonna use these and do what I needed to do and take so thank you so much for that. And I don't have to be like, oh, my teacher is going to be upset with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how like taking classes and courses can bring us back to like our little selves where it was like traumatized little students. Because,
Oh
uh,
my God.
it's definitely something that I've
Yeah.
felt, and it's like very interesting to, and it's like you can look at people's pages and see where they've connected with themselves and put themselves into what they're doing versus the ones that just kind of let a computer create something. Um, it's great to use AI and
Yeah, it
Google
has
as
a
resources,
purpose.
especially if you're not like a super creative
Yeah.
person in general. But when it came to like creating a logo, I will tell you right now, I started my coaching business. It was called Long Walks to Happiness. I
Oh,
put that up there and people started commenting like memes underneath of it of like people in wheelchairs and people
very
walking weird and like little
evil.
animals. And I was just like, oh gosh, this is not at all what I
That's not
envisioned. And it killed
what
the
I was trying to
vibe.
say. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
So it was just like, okay, because in my head, I was like, long walks to happiness. Like a lot
Yeah.
of my conversations with friends were on long walks.
Walks.
Like we'd go on the
Yeah,
beach, we'd walk along the road on the sidewalk and just have conversations. That's where my mind
but
was. But
not
with
everybody
people,
was there.
I was just like, okay, so that might not be it. So it eventually came more centered and became like the drumming culture area
Yeah,
where it is now. And I think that aligned with me. And that took several years. So like when Launchpad was like, what's your logo? What's
do
your
it.
name? I
That's
was
the
like,
name of.
that's too much for everybody. It's like took
I
me so
was
long to get mine.
terrified.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was terrified. I won't lie. I was terrified. I'm like, no, I can't do this. Like, this is not. I'm not ready. And especially, we were just coming right off cramming, getting the exams out, which wasn't very hard, but I had a little hiccup with my unsupervised coaching. There was a lot of my sessions that couldn't be used because they weren't long enough, and I had to scrap them. So I had to like be cramming more into it. So all of that, plus I was moving, new state, new job, new, it was like a lot. Plus I was doing a lot of other personal stuff in the background, and I'm like, no, I can't. I can't do this. And then when I at work, I couldn't find a proper schedule because I get my energy and my drive from when I meet with you guys, like I'm in the sessions. And when I couldn't, like all my work schedule, I could not like get on one of the classes. And I'm like, this is so bad. And I start feeling like I'm on the outside of everything. And I'm like, okay, but I had to like take a step back and like deal with some other things and then come back to it and be like, you know what? This is not like somebody like be like, let's tick this off and let's grade this work and do it. So, I'm asserting my adult, like I'm the creator of my life. I choose if this is just a reference. Don't make it more than it is, and don't create an issue where there isn't one.
Yeah. And
Because
we do
pretty much
that
that's
all the
what I
time
did.
in life.
That's what I did. Like I created this monster in my head, which was nothing. So when I kind of dissected, I'm like, and I came back to it, be like, why am I like, why did I like, I this big old lie for a person is like, oh, they did say it's a reference, and you could take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And I remember that, and that just like dissipate everything. I was in a session with one of my coach too, and it just dissipate everything. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And that's like the journey I think that's important for coaches to remember is we are humans. I think a lot of times when we take a step into the seat of coach,
Yeah.
that we forget that it's okay for us to be human. Like, I think so often we feel like we have to be expert, we have to be the most professional, we have to know everything, and our clients don't know anything. We have to feed them
Yeah.
with all this stuff. And it's like, no,
Mm-mm.
the you have to you have to center yourself around being human and knowing that like in a moment, because it's not like there's a script that you can read for your
Nope.
client. It's just trusting yourself and keep centering yourself and connecting with yourself. and trusting yourself. Like that's so
Yeah.
important. Just trust that you are the type of person that this person needs. And if you
Yeah.
get to the point where you feel like you are not the person that they need, trust
That's
yourself enough
okay
to say,
too.
"Hey,
That's okay.
I think we our ride is done for right now,
Yeah.
but I think there are other people who can take you further.
Absolutely.
Uh, good luck on your journey, and
Yes.
let me
It
know
was
how it goes."
exactly. I was checking on you just to see how everything's going, but I'm not like the collaboration has like run its course,
Yeah,
and you need to move on to something else. You know.
yeah.
So, but that's hard. I know that's what we struggle with. Just to remember, we won't be able to help everybody as much as we would love to. We cannot help everybody,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's a hard lesson to learn. And sometimes you just have to like helping this person is actually like what stepping away from it. Like that's the help that you start. Like that's just your contribution. Like letting the person know, listen, this is bigger than you and I. This is something else that you may need to collaborate with somebody else about. So but I have loved this conversation. Like I loved it. And of course, I probably will be one of your guests in the future. But I'm
Absolutely.
looking forward to seeing other coaches, and I'm looking forward to seeing everything. I do have an appointment in a few minutes, so
Okay.
I have to head
Perfect.
out. But thank you so much, Ben, for inviting me on here and giving me this space. I felt comfortable in being myself and expressing myself. And this is what this life is all about. This is what coaching and providing this space is all about. So thank you so much.
I, I agree. And thank you so much for coming on here. And we will definitely stay connected in the Heartbeat community for sure.
Yes, we will. Yep. And I thank everybody that came on today viewing. I am not very tech savvy or whatever. I'm seeing some of the messages coming through, but I don't do games because I have terrible and high coordination. But I just want to say, everybody, thank you so much for all the love that you pretty much kind of sent to us today. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.